Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about this Jim Cornette controversy regarding AEW. Yeah, a couple of days ago, it was reported in the wrestling news that some asshole jumped by his own admission. He was a fat bastard. He jumped the guardrail and he blamed it on Jim Cornette. Now, what do I think about this? Well, first of all, nobody, and he tried to attack MJF and Chris Jericho. I don't think anybody should be jumping the guardrail trying to attack wrestlers. I think that's taken a little bit too far. But what he said was, he said, I blame Jim Cornette. I did this for Jim Cornette. I did it for Jim Cornette and Brian Last, all the real wrestling fans. Because, Jim Cornette, he attacks the Young Bucks. He attacks Chris Jericho. He attacks AEW. He attacks Tony Khan. So this guy took it upon himself to go into the ring and attack Chris Jericho and try to attack MJF in the middle of the ring, and he blamed it on Jim Cornette. I don't think necessarily that it's Jim Cornette's fault because, first of all, on Jim Cornette's podcast, he always says if any fan ever gets in the ring and tries to get physical with a wrestler, they should be fucked up. He talks about when he was in Mid-South Wrestling and when fans used to want to attack him, that's why he started using the tennis racket. And he started putting metal in the tennis racket because fans would always want to attack him at Mid-South Wrestling shows. So he himself does not agree with attacking fans. He would never agree to, attacking fans, attacking wrestlers. He would never agree to something like that. That is completely not Jim Cornette's style. Back in the summertime, he condemned the guy that was stalking Sonya Deville, and trying to harm Sonya Deville. He might not like the Young Bucks. He might not like MJF. He might not like Chris Jericho anymore. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he wants to see fans act crazy and stupid like that. I hate when fans jump into the ring and they try to attack the wrestlers. And then they'll turn around. The wrestlers will turn around and smack the shit out of them. And then they will go and sue the wrestlers because they say, well, he shouldn't have touched me. Well, you shouldn't have been behind the rail. There's a reason why there is a rail there, and then there's you. During the 2019 Hall of Fame in Madison Square Garden, somebody jumped the rail and attacked Bret Hart. He was giving this Hall of Fame speech. Some guy named Zachary Madison jumped the rail and attacked Bret Hart. And all the wrestlers and all the security guards, they jumped on his ass, as they should, like with this guy. And another notorious scene, and they always cut this out in the when they played it back in the network. When Hulk Hogan turned heel in 1996, while the NWO was doing their interview, there was this drunk fat guy that jumped in, and Scott Hall started kicking the shit out of him. So, and this, matter of fact, has happened to Chris Jericho too before. In 2009, a fan and Chris Jericho got into an altercation as well. So this has happened to Chris Jericho before. But for this guy to sit there and blame Jim Cornette, this is like blaming, Trump for the January 6th for the January 6th incident. Yeah, maybe he said some things or whatever that could seem like it could incite violence, but shit could be taken either way. Sometimes you listen to Jim Cornette's podcast and he goes a little bit too far. You know what I mean? But if you listen to his podcast, and you should know Jim Cornette by now. You should know that Jim Cornette, he's not really work. I don't think he's really working in the sense that he's trying to work an angle with the Bucks. Maybe he is, or he's trying to work an angle with MJF or AEW or Tony Khan. But maybe he is. Maybe he's not so anti Tony Khan or anti AEW, anti any of that stuff. Maybe it's just a storyline. You know what I mean? That's how he gets ratings in his podcast. But it kind of proves Vince Russo's point. A couple of years ago, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, Vince Russo got into yet another online beef with Jim Cornette, and he got a restraining order against Jim Cornette. And he said he didn't believe that Jim Cornette himself would do anything, but just Jim's followers. Sometimes Jim Cornette is so passionate that if he'd have gotten into politics, he could have been a demagogue. He could have been Trump. He could have been, you know, Barack Obama. He's so passionate with his speech and his rhetoric when he speaks about professional wrestling and how passionate and how much he loves it, that a lot of times he will inspire people to sometimes do great things like become wrestlers and try to maybe reform the wrestling business and try to bring it back to the way it was back in the territory days of the times that he loves. But he also may do stuff like this. You know, what I don't like though is it's sort of like with the January 6th situation. It's like, okay, this happened and the government's now going to come after you, and now you have to be careful of what you say. So this is sort of like this in the wrestling context, to where Jim Cornette says this stuff about AEW, and this guy does this, and then now YouTube and stuff will try to crack down on wrestling contented channels to try and say, well, even the wrestling contented channels are starting to incite riots among fans and stuff. You know what I mean? So not just political speech, but even speech about something as innocent or innocuous as professional wrestling, they may try to come after it and censor it and try to flag down some of the videos. You know, Jim Cornette not going to be touched by it because he's famous. You know what I mean? He's somebody in the wrestling industry. He's a legend in the wrestling industry. Somebody that is a normal wrestling YouTuber that just talks about wrestling, that's just a normal person like me, will be hit by it if this becomes a trend. You know what I'm saying, guys? Peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe.